This is Rugby Roundup. Coming up, Bees close the gap on Moseley as the relegation battle hots up, and we speak to Worcester's Alex Grove ahead of the trip to Dublin. Hello and welcome to Rugby Roundup. I'm Chrissy Savas and I'm joined in our Fort Dunlop studios by rugby correspondent Brian Dick. Hello Brian.
Hi Chrissy.
Well, Bees won against Doncaster and now they're just within a point of Moseley.
They really have thrown the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons with this victory. Not so much just for the fact that they've drawn within a point, which they clearly have, and you know it's difficult to see either side getting too far ahead of the other one now ahead of the playoffs, but for the fact that this A game that we've talked about, this ability to to put sides to the sword and play well, they demonstrated that in spades against Doncaster. And Doncaster are a proper championship outfit. Bees weren't picking off the small fry. They outmuscled Doncaster up front. And they cut them to ribbons in the backs. Now, if I was at Billesley Common, I know it's wrong to say that what happens at Bees has got any bearing on what happens at Billesley Common, and we don't want to make this just into a battle between the two Birmingham sides. But if I was there and I saw one of my relegation rivals putting in that sort of performance at this stage of the season, I'd be pretty alarmed. And I think they are at Moseley. They've had a bit of an honesty session again this week, so they need to produce this weekend.
Oh, we'll talk about Moseley's performance shortly, but after the game you caught up with Simon Hunt. Let's hear what he had to say.
We seem to have this big red box with a big panic button that we hit during games, and it depends on what kind of box we have that week, how long the panic button lasts. And last week it lasted about 20-25 minutes. The week before it only lasted about 10 minutes. And Welsh Pirates, we all have these crazy 15 or 20 minutes or 5 minutes of just craziness where we decide to forget how we play rugby and the teams just you get punished in this league. And then we kind of 5 minutes, probably 5-10 minutes just before half time, we kind of were controlling it, and then we hit our button, and luckily it only lasted 10 minutes today, and then we kind of just grabbed it back again. So nothing spectacular. You watched it, nothing spectacular, just a bit more attrition I think on our side, but it's better than losing. So.
Well, that was try scorer Simon Hunt. He was clearly overcome with that use of metaphor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's an early contender for Mangled Metaphor of the Year, but he's every right to be happy because he not only played very well himself, his team played extremely well, as we've said. The forwards gave him a platform, the halfbacks and converted that platform into space for the backs, and Simon Hunt, we've talked about him ad nauseum on this show and how important he was to what they did last season. If he's coming into form at the right time again this season, as he demonstrated with a couple of his tries, then Bees are going to be much stronger for it. And whilst they probably don't need to lean on him as much this season, the fact he's there and scoring those tries, and crucially I think not got the responsibility of kicking goals this time to weigh on his mind. It's a massive bonus for them.
Who's up next for Bees?
Well, they're in British and Irish Cup action on Sunday against Ayr. We don't know a lot about Ayr. Russell Earnshaw has said to me that he considers that to be a good thing in that his guys will have to go out and solve whatever problems the Scots pose them actually on the day.
Great. Well, now let's move on to Moseley, and it wasn't a good performance for them at London Welsh.
No, it wasn't. They'd been there in the Cup a month or so ago, and Welsh turned out to be a very different beast last weekend. And Moseley's performance was just is typical of the way they've been lately. It's absolutely error-strewn. They're a strange side really, because they seem to be moving between the 22s quite comfortably, but when they get in the red zone or they're defending their own line, they just, the nerves take over, or they just start making stupid decisions or making basic errors, and this happened again on last Saturday. And I didn't think Welsh were 36 points better than Moseley. They deserve to win undoubtedly, but they're such a side that if you do make an error, they've got the finishers to put you away, and that's exactly what happened.
We spoke to Anthony Carter.
No, we've been trying to set standards, and as a group we didn't come anywhere near where we needed to be. Can't afford to give Welsh 20 minutes of us not being there. It doesn't matter what side you're playing in this division, they're going to punish you. We talked about that we can't do it, we can't afford to do it, and yet again we've done it, in the first 20 minutes. So.
What's going on there? The boys coming out flat, do you feel? Or?
No, well, I think all the right words are being said, but actions speak louder than words, and we're going to put the actions into place. It's disappointing, I think. Instead of looking at each other, maybe we start looking at ourselves individually, because we're in a bit of a hole now, and only hard work is going to get us out of there.
Well, Anthony Carter knows it was a terrible performance, but what's going to happen now?
Well, as I've said earlier, they've had this honesty session, this almost fortnightly thing that seems to be taking place at Billsley Common at the moment. What they need now, they've laid all the cards on the table. Hopefully they've solved their problems, and what they've discussed is about going out and playing with no fear. Now, it's not as easy as just flicking a switch. You can't suddenly, the stress doesn't melt away and you suddenly become a super confident, all singing, all dancing side. But what they've got to do is basically, they've got to carry on doing in the red zone, in the 22, the work that they've been putting in that got them there in the first place. It's not about forcing that miss pass or that offload that's not there. Now they've got a relatively low pressure game against Swansea this Saturday, in which to put some of their theory into practice, and I certainly hope they do, because they need, with signs of momentum elsewhere. Isha have won recently, Bees have won recently. The teams at the top of the relegation playoff group are sort of picking up wins here and there. Moseley need to be doing something similar.
Well, from a struggling Midland side to one that is on song, Worcester won at home to Bedford. They're doing really well. Up next, it's a cup game, isn't it, Leinster?
Yeah, that's right. They're off to Dublin this weekend. There's a little bit of unhappiness in the Worcester squad that they're not having an overnight stay, and all that entails in Dublin. But they've got bigger issues on their mind. There'll be plenty of time for a celebration. At the end of the season, judging by the way they're going at the moment, they really did overpower Bedford in the first half of that game. Richard Hill's identified his strongest 22, and he's putting it out now, and it is going extremely well.
Well, as you said, it's a cup game and a return for Alex Grove. We spoke to him about the match.
Yes, so I had to make a decision quite quickly, and Edinburgh were keen to support my wish to play top flight rugby. I'm grateful for Worcester and Edinburgh, for supporting me and giving me that opportunity. And it was always going to be a six-month loan deal, because Cecil asked how do I feel about returning to Worcester. I said, well, yeah, I want to play for Worcester now, but if it's going to prohibit my chances of playing international rugby, then I'm going to have to look for rugby elsewhere. When I spoke with Andy Robinson, he was happy with a 6-month loan deal, providing I was playing regularly, which I was for Edinburgh. And so the deal's a deal, and I'm back with Worcester. Yeah. In fact, it's a month early, and it's great to be back.
Yeah. That was Alex Grove, and he's excited to be returning.
He is, and Worcester will be excited to be having him as well, because they're basically, although Alex has been with them before, they're basically signing a Scotland international, and what a great stage of the season to do it. Alex is a very good player, and it'll be interesting to see the effect his arrival has on guys like Alex Crockett and Rob Hickett, the two centres that have nailed down those midfield positions. But with Alex coming back in, the competition is going to be intense for that 13 shirt, and you would say Alex arguably would be the one that would take it because of his international pedigree, but who knows? And the one thing we do know is that Worcester are going to benefit from it, and Alex is back a few weeks earlier than he'd expected to be, so he'll have a greater amount of time to get into the groove for these important playoffs.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you for watching. We'll be back next Thursday with analysis of those fixtures. Bye for now.